Top 7 Scariest Viruses of the 2000s. The first quarter of the 21st century has seen a good share of deadly diseases on a global scale, of which the coronavirus pandemic is the most recent example. However, did you know that there have been almost 10 large-scale outbreaks of very deadly viruses across the globe since the turn of the millennium? In today's video, we'll explore the top 7 scariest viruses to kill human beings during the past 20 years. While you may remember some of them because of the countless lives taken, many deadlier ones may have gone under your radar, and these viruses may very well be spreading amongst us right now, depending on where you go and what you come in contact with. So turn up your headphones and don't miss a beat. But first, hit the like. Subscribe for more informative videos like this one. Number 7. SARS-CoV-2. The first virus on our list is the one everyone is talking about since the turn of 2020. The coronavirus that caused the COVID-19 pandemic. Let's quickly revisit this one with a deeper look at understanding how people die, and it may surprise you for the lack of media coverage. Originating in Wuhan, China in November 2019, SARS-CoV-2 causes Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome, or SARS, a very dangerous condition that can lead to death in different ways. One such mechanism is through cytokine storms, the effect of an immune system and hyperdrive that starts destroying healthy tissue. A potential cause of death is pulmonary embolism, caused by blood clots formed in other parts of the body that break apart and reach the pulmonary arteries, reducing blood oxygenation and therefore causing asphyxiation, even though the patient seems to breathe freely. Another common way in which the virus kills is when the same clots go to coronary arteries or to the brain, causing heart attacks or strokes. As it happens, this is actually the second SARS-causing coronavirus to hit us since the year 2000, but it is by far one that has hit us the hardest. The fatality rate of COVID-19 is not particularly high, reaching only about 6%, but the virus's contagiousness is extremely high, which resulted in almost 8 million infected people and over 400,000 deaths by mid-June 2020, when the end of the pandemic was still nowhere in sight. Number 6. The Dengue, Zika, and Chikungunya viruses. These three are a family of related viruses, all of which are transmitted by the same vector, the Aedes aegypti mosquito, which is endemic in tropical countries in Africa, Asia, and Latin America. Each virus produces a disease known by the same name, in other words, dengue, Zika, and Chikungunya fever. They show similar symptoms like very high fevers, unbearable back and joint pains, headaches, and overall weakness. The dengue virus, however, can produce a form of hemorrhagic dengue fever in which we start bleeding from the inside out, ultimately dying unless we receive an immediate blood transfusion. Even then, we could be looking at multiple organ failures and death if we get the transfusion on time. Chikungunya fever is probably the most painful of the three, as told by those who have suffered them all, something that turns out to be quite frequent in some countries. Zika, on the other hand, is probably the least lethal of the three, but it produces horrible, life-threatening malformations in the unborn children when the mother contracts the virus during pregnancy, the most common of which is microcephaly. Number 5. SARS-CoV. It's apparent from its name, SARS-CoV is another coronavirus that causes SARS disease. This was actually the first SARS coronavirus known to man that caused the 2002 SARS pandemic. It's scary to think this virus also came from China, originating in November 2002 in Guangdong in the southern part of the country. Just like the new 2020 pandemic, this virus originated in a bat, but was transmitted to humans through the Asian palm civet, a cat-like mammal related to the weasel known to poop the most expensive coffee bean in the world. Yes, you heard that right. The expensive coffee called Kopi Luwak, A.K.A. civet coffee, is actually made of the beans pooped out by the Asian palm civet after beans were first digested by the civet. This coffee was once made famous by Jack Nicholson and Morgan Freeman on a Hollywood movie back in the early 2000s. Besides the point, the SARS epidemic of 2002 to 2004 never spread as widely as the 2020 pandemic. Only 8,400 people in total were infected by the first SARS. However, it turned out to be twice as deadly as COVID-19, killing around 11% of the people infected. However, the next virus on our list infected almost 20% of the entire world population when it hit. Keep watching to learn more. Number 4. The A.H1N1 influenza virus, aka swine flu virus. With so much attention given to the coronavirus, it may be hard to remember that there have been other very dangerous viruses around in the past 2 decades. While the seasonal influenza virus kills many around the world every year, other strains of influenza have also wreaked havoc across the world. In 2009, a new influenza virus was identified that appeared to be made from the combination of bird, human, swine, and Eurasian pig flu viruses. The disease caused by the virus was therefore called swine flu. An interesting characteristic of the A.H1N1 virus is that it affects all age groups equally, contrasting with the seasonal flu, which affects mostly senior citizens over the age of 60 years old. When we talk numbers, the swine flu really stands out because it's estimated to have infected as much as 1.4 billion people worldwide, causing between 150,000 to 575,000 deaths during the 19 months it lasted. This works out to a case fatality rate of less than 0.04%, which makes it one of the least deadly viruses on the list. But it sure is one of the most contagious ones we've faced so far. To give you an idea, if this virus had the same fatality rate as the 2020 coronavirus, the death toll would have been just over 80 million people. Number 3. Japanese Encephalitis virus. The Japanese Encephalitis virus, JEV, is responsible for the most cases of viral encephalitis, a disease characterized by high fever, neck pains, hemiparesis, or the inability to move our bodies due to its attack on the central nervous system and the brain, and in many cases, mental retardation. It was discovered many years ago, but there have been several outbreaks around the world during the last 2 decades, particularly in Southeast Asia. This virus is transmitted to humans by mosquito bites or contact with infected birds. Thankfully, there are no reported cases of human-to-human transmission, so infected patients don't need to be isolated, and it's unlikely that we'll ever see a pandemic anytime soon. However, once it gets a hold of its victim, the virus is very effective at killing, giving an average case fatality rate as high as 30%. Number 2. MERS-CoV. In terms of deadliness, the MERS-CoV, which caused the MERS outbreak of 2012, is the most dangerous coronavirus that affects human beings. MERS stands for Middle East Respiratory Syndrome and is a disease similar to SARS in that it produces fever, cough, and shortness of breath. The virus is thought to have originated in bats, but most reported cases in the Middle East are somehow related to close contact with camels, which is why MERS is also known as camel flu. 2 big differences set the MERS-CoV apart from both SARS-CoV viruses. First, it is much less contagious and human-to-human transmission is only rarely observed. This is the reason why only 688 people have been infected since 2012. Second, this virus is much deadlier. Because of the 688 confirmed cases, 282 ultimately died, giving a case fatality rate of over 40%, almost 10-fold higher than that of COVID-19. We've explored most viruses that have been linked to different outbreaks, epidemics, or pandemics in the last 2 decades. It is now time to cover one of the highest reported fatality rates that scared the wits out of us back in 2005. Number 1. The A.H5N1 influenza virus, aka bird flu virus. In 2003, a new strain of type A influenza virus was discovered, once again in China. This virus, identified as A.H5N1, was killing millions of wild birds of all species, completely wiping out entire flocks. At one point, birds started transmitting the virus to humans, and the bird flu was born. We all remember the images in the news of farmers sacrificing thousands upon thousands of chickens, hens, and turkeys that had been infected by wild birds because of the risk that they posed on us humans. And what a risk it was! There weren't many cases of bird flu in humans, since the virus isn't transmitted from person to person. However, this strain of influenza virus is hundreds of times more deadly than the seasonal influenza, and almost 10 times deadlier than the 2020 coronavirus, killing as much as 60% of all people it's affected. This is without a doubt the deadliest virus to come out of the 2000s, and naturally, people were freaking out at the prospect of being killed by a harmless hummingbird or a blue jay. Which one of the top 7 scariest viruses of the 2000s do you think is worse? The one that infects billions but kills few? Or the one that infects very few but kills most? Join the conversation in the comments section below. Support our channel by giving us a like, subscribe, and hit the notifications bell for useful information that matters most. See you on our next video.